Hello again. This is going to be a land battle replay featuring Skaven, yes, versus Beastmen. The leader of the Skaven army is a Warlock master riding a Doomflayer. Behind him is one of the special weapons units in this army, Natty Bubo's Sharpshooters. They are a stealth sniper unit, and they are going to be dealing most of the damage in this army alongside the Teethbreakers here, a special rattling gunner unit with concealment bombs, so both my range units can stay hidden from like artillery. And the rest of my army is pretty much going to try to defend them. My Warlock Master and this Warlock Engineer can both cast Howling Warp Gale on air units, stunning them in place, which is great. I gave them both Warp Lightning as well, because that's just always great to take. Then for ground defense, we have the Warp Grinders, who can stick their warp drills in the ground to snare units in place with Seismic Snare and damage them with Warp Quake. On the front line, we have Clan Rat Swords, spears in the back, some wolf rats on the sides, and a bunch of rat ogres. Now, leading the Beastmen army is Taurox the Brass Bull. He's a fearsome minotaur, blessed and cursed by the Chaos Gods. There's going to be a bunch more minotaurs following him into battle. 2 units with great weapons. Then on the far side we have some Razor Gore chariots. This is a high mass unit, so these things alongside the minotaurs should be able to run over the rat army pretty efficiently. Then the Beastmen have a fully vanguarded front line here, some Ungor raiders in the back who are stealthed, and then a front line of Gore Herd with shield. In the back, behind my Skaven army, is 2 contingents of vanguard units, Centaurs here on the ground, and then on the other side in the sky is some Harpies. Now the battle is underway, and we have some Gore Herd moving up towards the Clan Rats to start it off. In the rear, the vanguarded units are starting their long trek towards the center, the Centaurs and the Harpies. They'll eventually make it. There's a brass orb going down on the Gore Herd from the Warlock Master. I really like this ability. You can use it 3 times. It's really disruptive, does some good damage. It seems like the Gore Herd are charging into the Clan Rats, who don't seem to be getting their charge bonuses back, but at least the Skaven are moving up the Wolf Rats and the range units, who are both still stealthed. And it looks like it's going to be a free charge into the Ungor Raiders here from the Wolf Rats. They are the best of boys. Yeah, I don't think the strategy for the Beastmen is to defend the outlying units. I think the strategy is to just charge forward with everything. I mean, they're a bunch of bulls. We have Taurox leading the charge here, using his explosion ability to scare the Skaven a bit, and he's just hoofing it. Now, looking towards the Skaven backline, both Vanguard units are right in the thick of it, so we can confirm Beastman's strategy is all in. Luckily, the Warlock Master uses a Howling Warp Gale to stun the Harpies in the sky, while on the ground, the Warp Grinders are furiously digging with their equipment to snare the Centaurs and do a little bit of damage to them with the Warp Quake. So for the time being, the Rattling Gunners will be opening fire on the Harpies, and a Warp Lightning will be going down to do some more damage. And if that kills some rats too, that's just collateral, you know. Some Skaven tactics there, yes. Now looking back towards the front line, we see that Taurox and some Minotaurs have already broken through. There's another layer of Clan Rat Spears here to separate them from the Rattling Guns, but honestly they're not going to do much. The Minotaurs are just going to step over them and trample them and send this Warlock Engineer flying, and they're already into the important guns of the Skaven. And without the snare from the Warp Grinders, since it's on cooldown, the rats are going to have a hard time dealing with that. But the snipers are still firing at the Harpies somehow, who just became free from the Howling Warp Gales. They were stunned in the air for almost a minute because I think the Warlock Master and the Engineer both used Overcast Warp Gales on them, like one after the other. So it was nice for the rats to fend off the flanking units at the start, but now the Centaurs are coming back in on the guns, and the guns are everything for the Skaven. So things can change up from this point on. We have a second brass orb coming down on the Gore Herd from the Warlock Master, but now you can see all these units are swarming the snipers. And the Teethbreakers Rattling Gun unit does not want to end up like them, so they're going to use some concealment bombs to live to fight another day, and they're actually going to be hidden right here, even though they're close to the other units, so they can kind of reform at the lip of this crater here. Meanwhile, those snipers are definitely swarmed, while there are some battles going on the outskirts of the map, and some Ungor raiders are pulling back in for the Beastmen. Then there's the Warlock Master, just kind of chilling here, cheering on his rats. Little does he know, the Brass Bull's about to give him the bad touch. And that is not going to go well for the Skaven Lord. Just a few seconds in that combat and he's going to get a hurting put on him. Let me see the health bar. And just 2 hits is already not good, but some Rat Ogres come in to body block for him. And he's going to be happy to get out of there. Probably as happy as Taurox is pissed, I would say. So the rest of the battlefield, we see units starting to thin out and waver, but the Beastmen do have some Harpies coming back to finish off the range units. But there's the stealthed rattling guns here, so they're going to open fire with the aid of a Warlock engineer, who's going to cast a Howling Warp Gale to pin them in place. At the same time, the Warlock Master casts an upgraded Cleansing Ruin on Taurox, who is also caught up in a Warp Quake, but he's tanking it so well because he's activated Brass Body. And I'm sorry, but every time I see that ability, it reminds me of Dave Bautista's character in The Man with the Iron Fist. I'm pretty sure his name is just straight up Brass Body. Oh god. Anyway, the Rattling Gunners are shredding the Harpies, while the Minotaurs are crushing rats, breaking them, and looking to charge into more. Then, actually, a bunch of the Ungor Raiders came back and are now shooting, along with some gore. But, yeah, Taurox is not going to be stuck in that Warp Quake forever. He's going to use an explosion and march through this latent warpstone energy here to catch up with his Minotaur buddies. Meanwhile, it looks like some Wolf Rats got into those Ungor Raiders, and the last Brass Orb is going on to those straggling Gore herd there. Now, the Minotaurs are going right after the Skaven leadership, the Engineer and the Master, which is a smart move, but the Teethbreakers had such a good vantage point to give them covering fire, so it seems like now they're going to basically shoot down the rest of the Minotaurs that were following Taurox, leaving him by himself. But all hope is not lost for the Beastmen, even though the balance bar looks bad for them. The Razorgore chariots should be more than enough to take down the remaining gun units. And it's a whole different story once the gun units are gone for the Skaven. That's their main source of damage, and they have such bad leadership, they're so cowardly, they'll break if you look at them the wrong way. So now let's appreciate how the Razorgore chariots eliminate the snipers by sliding them to death, by making them skid across the sand. It's crazy. I wish they would fix that. It's so janky. Like, are they ever going to have the chariot riders do anything instead of just the beasts pushing the units to death? Anyway, we have Taurox over here caught in his second upgraded Cleansing Ruin and a Warpquake combo, but he's just still tanking it like such a beast while killing Skaven at the same time. And now he's on a trek. He smells blood in the air. He can't see his enemy over the lip of this crater, but he can smell the fear in their blood as he charges up the hill and blindly leaps over the edge into the fray. And we're going to get a nice view of the brass bottom there as he sends a rat ogre flying to its doom. I don't think that one's going to get up after this. It should probably just stay down. And you can't stop the bull's momentum. It's going to dive after the Warlock Master and a miss. A nice dodge by the Skaven Lord. And you see that? It's like one harpy that just rose up out of those units there. It's like, where's the rest of its unit? It's all by itself. It's like the last harpy. Well, you can actually see the rest of them in the distance. They just left this one behind. I'm sure she's going to go back to her nest now and sing a sad song. But anyway, the Razorgore chariots are now chasing off the rest of the guns for the Skaven. And I'm going to fast forward now as they do that, and as the Beastmen try to distance themselves from the Skaven army to maybe reform up, maybe regain some fatigue, regain some cooldowns for Taurox, but I know his brass body, he needs to be in combat to recharge that. But the explosion ability, Blood Beast, recharges after 90 seconds no matter what, so these two abilities could let Taurox take on the rest of these Skaven by himself probably. So not wanting to give him too much time out here, the Skaven are going to send out the Wolf Rats and their Lord as bait. Trouble is, Taurox takes the bait and puts a hurting on the Warlock Master. The Warp Grinders are going to come in to defend their lord and snare the Brass Bull. And in a true Skaven moment of cowardly courage, the Warlock Master stops running and overcasts Warp Lightning on Taurox. So he's actually going to hurt himself to poke Taurox for a little bit of damage. And now, if you think a few little Skaven are going to stop the bull from charging over them into their lord, you'd be wrong. That hit is going to make the Warlock Master waver and then break. And yeah, he's decided that this battle is just not worth dying over. He's going to flee the scene, leaving his rat men behind, and get out of here with his trusty dog. Now, spoiler alert, he does get chased down and killed by Taurox and the chariots, so I'll fast forward while they do that, and while the rat men form up for the final attack, just want to take a peek at the carnage in the crater here. It's a lot of Skaven and Beastmen bodies lying there. So now, at this point, I would not begrudge Taurox for waiting around and regaining some fatigue. I mean, he has the mobility advantage to do so, and I have the advantage here, so why not rest up? He's exhausted. My units are pretty well rested since they've been forming up here, but he just decides to go in. The chariots get like a really limp charge that almost looks like slow motion. And Taurox too, but he's in there now, uses an explosion ability, and now we'll see if he has the brass body. And you see some wavering here from the spears. It's like, who's going to break first now? But if he doesn't have the brass body, then yeah, it's going to be a GG. But this was a lot closer than it looked, trust me. Without their lord, the Skaven tend to run away if you just like look in their general direction. But they did it. So GG to the Loose Goose. Not crazy value individually for the Skaven, it was kind of like a group effort. But it is kind of weird seeing clan rats get over 1,000 value. I'm assuming that's because they were on the minotaurs, so maybe the minotaurs could have had better positioning, but even still they got some good value. And I wanted to highlight just how beefy Taurox is, pun intended. I mean, with the brass body giving 40% damage resistance, he was able to tank 2 upgraded Flensing Ruins. Now, looking at the Harpies, it seems like they were mitigated pretty well, and that's actually the main point of this Skaven army, is to be really good against air. In a different video, I'll be showing what they can really do in certain scenarios, so check that out if you'd like. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have fun out there.